Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my early Copa America 2024 prediction video. The draw literally just happened. In this tournament, it will be combined with quite a few CONCACAF nations. We've already got the United States, Mexico, and Panama making an appearance, but there's still 2 more slots to be determined. One of them can be Canada or Trinidad and Tobago, and the other will be Costa Rica or Honduras. Maybe I do present a bit of bias, but I think it's a wonderful thing that CONCACAF are merging with CONMEBOL a little bit, as it does increase exposure for both confederations. It's a shame that this tournament is happening at the same time as the Euros. I would love to cover both throughout while they're both going on, but it's going to be tough to pick and choose, but I will be putting out some Copa America videos before the summer begins. So if you haven't already, please hit the like button. Let's try to hit 3,000 likes on this video and subscribe if you're new. And of course, as always, let me know your own predictions in the comments below. Best of luck to all of these teams. If I predict your team to finish last, please don't take it personally. I would love to be proven wrong on many of these occasions, but these are just my earliest thoughts. Let's start off with Group A, of course. We've got Argentina, Peru, Chile, and one of those CONCACAF playoff teams, and it's going to be either Canada or Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago are a very interesting team, but personally, I think Canada will be the ones to qualify. We'll find that out in March though, so of course we'll do an updated prediction video once the confirmed CONCACAF teams are in. But yeah, already looking at this group, there is a clear favorite to top it. Argentina have had an immense last few years. They won the last Copa America, the Finalissima, and the World Cup. So 3 trophies in the past 2.5 years. Also, at the time of this recording, in the World Cup qualifiers, they sit at first place in CONMEBOL. They only suffered 1 defeat, which was against Uruguay. And they also just pulled off an impressive record where Brazil lost their first home match in the World Cup qualifiers in their entire history. The last match Argentina lost before that Uruguay defeat in the World Cup qualifiers was in the 2022 World Cup to Saudi Arabia in their opening match, which was an absolute shock, but like I already mentioned, they went on to win the entire tournament. Another reason why that defeat to Saudi Arabia was such a shock was because they were only a few matches away from setting the record of becoming the team with the longest unbeaten streak, national team at least. So even though we've seen Argentina drop points in the World Cup group stage, I don't see them doing it here. Maybe there will be a draw at some point, but regardless, I think that they're going to get first place in this group without a doubt. The rest though is very tricky to call, as Peru and Chile both have had quality moments in the past, but at this current moment of time, they have both been in quite dreadful form. Peru actually, from being just 1 match away to qualifying for the 2022 World Cup, to now being at dead last place in the CONMEBOL World Cup qualifiers, with no wins as well. They've only picked up 2 draws so far against Paraguay and Venezuela. Germany also suffered a lot of surprising defeats this year. This fact might not make sense at first, but you'll see where I'm going in a sec. They're looking to be in quite dreadful form. A lot of countries were able to get a solid result against them in a series of friendlies, but Peru was not one of those teams. Their manager Reynoso did step down a few weeks ago though. So with this tournament beginning in 7 months time, we very much could see this national team improve. Chile is actually in a very similar situation as Peru right now, as 5 days before Peru's manager resigned, theirs did as well. They currently have Nicolas Cordova as the interim manager. So for both of these South American teams that do possess some quality, things are just uncertain for them at the moment. We'll very much need to see how they progress over these next 7 months. Canada, on the other hand, who excited many right before the World Cup, are going through slightly weird of a phase right now. It's hard to judge their CONCACAF Gold Cup performances because they weren't playing their strongest lineup, of course, but they did pick up a few draws that they shouldn't have. And recently in the CONCACAF Nations League quarterfinals, they lost to Jamaica on away goals, which is what essentially put them in this position of not being guaranteed qualification. Regardless though, they're a nation with so many quality names that can only potentially improve. Of course, their star boy Alphonso Davies, but they've also got the likes of Tejan Buchanan, Jonathan David. Based on Chile and Peru's recent performances, Canada can definitely pull off some results against them. This order can definitely change once I see how these South American nations progress over the next few months with their new management, but for now, I definitely see at least one of them improving over time. But which one? It's really tough, but for now, I'll say Chile gets second, Canada third, and Peru fourth. The only thing I feel confident at the moment though is Argentina topping it. Let's move on now to Group B, where we have Mexico, Ecuador, Venezuela, and Jamaica. What an exciting group. This one is way more unpredictable than the rest. Based on the team's forms, this is very well balanced at the moment. Most people probably sleeping on Venezuela as they're the only CONMEBOL nation to never qualify for the World Cup, but they have been on such a solid run of form at the moment in the World Cup qualifiers. They currently sit at 4th place. chance, getting results like drawing with Brazil and defeating Chile 3-0. I definitely think this country can at least cause ruckus to one of these nations. Their manager Batista at the moment looks to be promising. Since he's been appointed, he's only lost one match so far, 1-0 to Colombia. Hopefully their great form continues, and they definitely can in a group like this. Mexico are looking to recover after their disappointing World Cup campaign. Under their new manager Lozano, they haven't lost a match yet, but they have picked up quite a decent amount of draws. Seems to be a few defensive errors going on there, with some of their draws being high scoring, and they do have some very solid attackers at the moment, including Santiago Jimenez, who has been on fire for Feyenoord, and Raul Jimenez has been gaining his form back for Fulham. Ecuador, I believe, did go through a bit of a downgrade in their management. They currently are being managed by Qatar's previous coach at the World Cup, Felix Sanchez. But regardless, they do have the best defense out of any of the teams in this group. Hincapié, Pacho, Estupiñán, just to name a few. Their midfield also possesses a lot of energy and quality. Lots of incredible youngsters on this team that can make the difference. To be honest, I think they have what it takes to top this group. It's not guaranteed for sure, but that's my opinion for now. Of course, can't sleep on Jamaica either. Like I mentioned, they did beat Canada on away goals in the CONCACAF Nations League quarterfinals. And in the Gold Cup, they did have some interesting displays. Definitely put off a strong team there. They have some incredible attackers like Antonio, Bailey, but we also can't forget about that in the CONCACAF Gold Cup semifinals, they got demolished by Mexico 3-0, and they're facing them once again here. Jamaica have what it takes to surprise, but at the moment, I'm just not too convinced that they can be consistent throughout this very interesting group. So I'm going to say the order follows as this. Like I said, Ecuador first, Mexico second, Venezuela third, and Jamaica fourth. Really won't be surprised if this is flopped around though, and I would love to see Venezuela prove me wrong. Now for Group C, we've got the hosts of the tournament, the United States, Uruguay, Panama, and Bolivia. I'll say it right now, I think that the favorites for this tournament are going to be either Argentina or Uruguay. Uruguay, since they have appointed Bielsa, are looking like one of the most dangerous teams at the moment. Like I already stated, they did beat Argentina in the World Cup qualifiers recently. They also defeated an underwhelming Brazil right before that match. The only team they lost to so far in this qualifier campaign was Ecuador. Of course, some of their veterans are fading away, but their new generation is still looking very promising. Some of them have already been proving their worth for quite a few years now, but the likes of Valverde is fantastic. Darwin Núñez has been really picking up his form this year. Araujo on Barcelona. This to me is one of the most dangerous teams at the tournament at the moment, and I definitely think they have what it takes to top this group. Definitely an ideal draw for them. Now, the United States are the hosts. However, I'm still not necessarily convinced that they have what it takes to beat a side like Uruguay at the moment. It really is an incredible crop of players the US possesses at the moment. However, they went back to their manager, Greg Berhalter, who doesn't allow these guys to play the most convincing football. Since his return recently, they picked up a loss to Trinidad and Tobago, although beating them 3-0 before. Other than that, they have been grabbing wins apart from losing to Germany in a friendly. So despite this squad not potentially playing to their maximum potential, they still, to me, have what it takes to get second place. There's still too much quality on this team to ignore, and with them playing on home soil, they should be able to do the job. Panama could be exciting underdogs here. We gotta remember that they made it all the way to the Gold Cup final, just losing to Mexico on penalties, even beating the USA there. But the USA definitely were not playing their strongest lineup in that tournament. So this time around, I am saying that the USA can defeat this nation. Panama still should be able to beat the likes of Bolivia based on their form at the moment, so I'm saying they finish at third, Bolivia fourth. Why am I sleeping on Bolivia? Well, they're not going to have their home advantage altitude this time around, are they? This side were champions in 1963, but that was on their own home ground. Most of the time, it has been a group stage exit for them, and I think it will repeat once again here. So yeah, fourth place for me. And finally, the last group we're looking at, Group D. It features Brazil, Colombia, Paraguay, and another CONCACAF playoff side. This time it will be either Costa Rica or Honduras. Brazil should be the favorites to top this group. This is one of, if not the most successful football nation in the world. They have the most World Cups to their name. However, they have been very, very disappointing recently. They sit at 6th place at the moment with 3 losses. I already mentioned how Argentina broke the record to be the first team to beat them in the World Cup qualifiers in Brazil, but they also recently lost to Colombia, who are in the same group as them as well. Prior to that, they lost to Uruguay as well, so they are on a losing streak at the moment. Their last one was all the way back in September against Peru. Definitely new management is needed without a doubt. They have their caretaker at the moment after Chichi's departure. Of course, Neymar just suffered a terrible injury, but still, even without him, this side have so much quality where there's just no excuse to not perform to the highest level. Colombia at the moment in the World Cup qualifiers are the only side to be undefeated. They sit at 3rd place with 3 wins and 3 draws. Honestly, if their attack is fully fit by the time the tournament begins with the likes of Luis Diaz, I could see this side potentially upsetting this group a little bit, at least topping Brazil. I think I'm gonna have to go for it. Colombia first, Brazil second place. At this current moment at least. We'll see if Brazil can improve, but right now they're just slipping a bit too much for me to be convinced. I don't want to count out Paraguay or Costa Rica either though. We've seen Costa Rica tell some absolutely beautiful underdog tales for the World Cup 2014, topping their group of death, but this side recently have taken some heavy blows, conceding 3 goals to Panama both legs in the CONCACAF Nations League quarterfinal, losing to the UAE in a friendly 4-1, and getting knocked out to Mexico in the CONCACAF Gold Cup final. Paraguay, on the other hand, have only picked up 1 win so far in the World Cup qualifiers. Their defense is actually looking quite solid in their recent matches, but they seem to lack that goal-scoring threat. Very cool side regardless, but I do think that they will finish 3rd and Costa Rica will be last. Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention, that is the team I think will advance in the CONCACAF playoff spot over Honduras. Sorry, Honduras. Alright, so I was going to end the video on the group stage, but then I realized it was just a bit too short and I felt bad not giving you guys my knockout thoughts. So here is what the bracket would look like if all of my predictions come true. On one side of the bracket, we've got Argentina versus Mexico and Ecuador versus Chile. And then on the other, Uruguay versus Brazil and Colombia versus the United States. I'm going to go through the left side of the bracket a bit quicker because I think it is a tad bit more straightforward. Of course, we could see some upsets here, but Argentina versus Mexico, for example, we've already seen this match happen in the World Cup last year. Argentina grabbed a 2-0 victory. Definitely think they have what it takes to get that kind of scoreline once again. I'm saying Argentina advanced to the semifinals. Moving on to Ecuador versus Chile. Like I mentioned, Chile's form have been pretty horrendous lately. Of course, this tournament is in 7 months' time, but the way things are looking now, Ecuador are definitely in a lot better shape, and I do see them advancing to the semifinals as well. The other side of the bracket, though, is definitely more tough to call. Uruguay versus Brazil is definitely going to be an interesting fixture. As I stated earlier, these sides face each other in October, and Uruguay grabbed a 2-0 victory. Bielsa getting the best out of this team. Brazil seemed to lack some kind of key management figure at the moment. The way things stand, and I've already hinted at this earlier in the video, that I think Argentina and Uruguay are the favorites of the tournament at the moment. So I'm definitely saying at this current moment in time, Uruguay are the ones to advance to the semifinals. Would still be a massive upset for Brazil because there's just such high expectations for its national team. But the way this year has been panning out ever since their World Cup exit, it hasn't been looking too bright. Now for Colombia versus the United States. For a quarterfinal fixture, this is definitely not the worst outcome the US could get. So I think less pressure will be there if it's Colombia instead. They definitely have what it takes to get a result here, especially with them being the host. However, same as my World Cup reasoning for the USA not doing well, I just don't trust Berhalter enough. He exceeded expectations for me, actually making it out of the group last time, and I think he can this time as well, but I'm seeing another first round knockout exit. Obviously this time it's the quarterfinals instead of the round of 16, but I think Colombia at this moment have what it takes to beat them. Now for those semi-final matchups, Argentina versus Ecuador first. Can the Ecuadorian defense continue to prove their worth? Under Felix Sanchez against Argentina, I'm not too sure. Now, there are some rumors of Argentina's manager Scaloni leaving as well, but nothing's confirmed yet. Definitely would be a bit of a downgrade, and maybe if he does leave, we could see the side being a bit more disorganized by the time this tournament rolls around. But I definitely see Argentina still advancing to the final regardless. But yeah, already looking at each side of the bracket, Argentina definitely got lucky in this draw. Of course, though, they should not underestimate Ecuador. But yeah, for the other side, Uruguay versus Colombia, I think Colombia's run ends here. They could make it interesting. Maybe we'll see this go to penalties, but Uruguay are my favorites to make it to the final. And for that final, Argentina versus Uruguay. Uruguay did just get the best of the side recently. It's the only side Argentina failed to beat in recent times, apart from Saudi Arabia last year. And in the last Copa America, Argentina got a very narrow result against them in the group stage. This is a toss-up at the moment. Definitely things can change in 7 months. Like I already mentioned, Scaloni's future is to be determined. Uruguay under Bielsa, very curious to see how it continues to pan out. Right now, it's looking very promising. I wouldn't be surprised no matter the outcome here, but I am still favoring Argentina to be the champions, meaning they will be back-to-back Copa America champions, Messi's second Copa America, and also his second in a row. It slightly feels like it's written in the stars, just like the World Cup, but regardless, we shall see. Should be a very exciting tournament. Thank you all for making it to the end of this video. Like I said, please let me know your predictions down below. Don't forget to leave an early like, and let me know if you want to see any more Copa America related content. I'll see you all very, very soon. Take care. La con noche.